this business meeting of CEC 15 to order at 6:30 p.m. Before we get started, could the interpreters please introduce yourselves and give the language access information? Maybe we could start with Mandarin, please.
Hi, this is Mandarin announcement. 如果需要普通话翻译，请拨打347-966-4114。ID 号码是615-267-870，井号键。再说一遍，普通话翻译请拨打347-966-4114，ID 是615-267-870，井号键。Mandarin completed. Thanks.
Thank you. Bangla, please.
The following message will be in Bangla. শুভ সন্ধ্যা। আপনারা যারা আজকে এই অনুষ্ঠানটি বাংলায় শুনতে চান আপনাদের ফোন থেকে ডায়াল করবেন 347-966-4114। আবার বলছি 347-966-4114 এবং কনফারেন্স আইডি দিতে হবে 260-565-408#। পিনটা হবে 260-565-408#। আপনাদের কোনো প্রশ্ন থাকলে প্রশ্নটি ফোন লাইনে আপনাদেরকে করতে পারেন, অন্যথায় অনুগ্রহ করে জুমে মিউট করে রাখবেন। ধন্যবাদ। থ্যাংক ইউ। বাংলা announcement complete.
Thank you. And Spanish, please.
Hi, good evening. This is announcement in Spanish. Para interpretación en español, por favor, marque el número de teléfono 347-966-4114 más el número de PIN o ID 113-107-111 más el signo del número. Repito, para comunicarse y escuchar la conferencia en español, marcar el número de teléfono 347-966-4114 y el número de ID o PIN 113-107-111 más el signo del número. Recuerden que esta información va a estar en la caja de chat para conectarse y también, por favor, mantenga su teléfono muteado para no interrumpir la interpretación. Spanish introduction complete.
Thank you so much, and thanks to all the interpreters for being here. Kim, would you read the public comment protocol?
Yes, good evening. Our rules of engagement tonight. Tonight's in-person meeting will include public comment period at the end of the meeting. When you comment, please comment on the topic. Respect the privacy of others, and please do not include names of children or staff. Guests who make inappropriate comments will be removed from the meeting. During the public comment period, those attending virtually may raise their hand to comment or indicate in the chat that they would like to speak. Speakers will be called on one at a time and will be allowed 1 minute for 1 minute each for comment. We will hear as many speakers as the time allows. If you have a question outside of this comment period, please signal it by raising your hand or writing it in the chat. If time permits, we will respond to these additional questions that arise at other times. It is possible that not every comment question will be given time, in which case we encourage you to write to the CEC at cec15@schools.nyc.gov. CEC members will also be given a comment period. Members will be called upon and are each permitted 1 2-minute comment or question.
Thank you. Karen, would you call the roll?
Councilmember Angelica Cesario.
Present.
Councilmember Jonathan Davis.
Present.
Councilmember Elton Dodson.
Present.
Councilmember Ken Eby.
Present.
Councilmember Angelica Jadunandan.
Present.
Councilmember Katina Rogers.
Present.
Councilmember Kim Wanless.
Present.
Councilmember Shinsha Stu.
She has an excuse now.
And Councilmember Karis Moller. Present.
Thank you. Okay, so for this business meeting, I do not have much by way of a president's report. In part, I think because this is going to be a very nuts and bolts meeting, and so my mind was in a very nuts and bolts place as opposed to some of the more zoomed out topical issues that we've been talking about over the last couple of months. We're going to be talking tonight about one of our core duties, which is conducting school walkthroughs to advise on SCA priorities. And Jonathan's going to be talking about this shortly, but it's also really important for us to keep in mind that this is not just about surfacing those top 5 priorities that we present to the SCA. To be totally honest, those tend to move very slowly. But the things that can be accomplished by the Department of School Facilities and potentially with RESOA funding from elected officials can sometimes move faster. And so by talking to the schools, by building relationships, we're able to get some of that stuff moved forward. This might not be the most exciting topic, but the condition of our schools determines our students' learning conditions. You know it when you walk into a room and it's too hot or too cold, it affects whether you're able to do your best work, and it's the same for our kids. So with that kind of nuts and bolts focus in mind, I just wanted to say a little bit about the complexities of school governance in New York City. I'm not going to say very much because I'm not an expert in this, but I know that especially for parents who may be on the call, a lot of this is very opaque. And so I wanted to talk about this just as some of the ways that parents and community members can get involved, which you all already are just by virtue of being here and volunteering to be in this space. The thing that gets very confusing is mayoral control, which I know is a topic that is something Councilmember Dodson feels very, very strongly about. So since 2002, New York City schools have been under what's known as mayoral control. New York City is the largest school district in the country. That's obviously a lot to manage, but the community-based school districts, I don't know, there was a perception of too much variance among them or what. There was a movement to centralize oversight with the city. So rather than being governed by school boards at the community district level, New York City schools are overseen centrally. And in practical terms, this oversight occurs through the Panel for Education Policy, which we often shorten to the PEP. The PEP consists of 24 members, and most of them are appointed by the mayor. So there's that's the body that's making binding decisions, whereas things that we do here in the council are largely advisory. So we, as community education councils, we advocate for our school communities on the district level, but the key decisions don't happen here, they happen at the PEP. And this layer already is in addition to the school-based organizations that everybody knows well, your PAs or PTAs or FTAs, whatever they happen to be called at your school, your parent and teacher organizations, family teacher organizations, and your SLTs, your school leadership teams, which are a combination of parents and teachers. And these support the needs of a particular school community. So this is a lot to keep track of, and it's a lot for busy parents to invest in. And I find that parents and family members who invest in one space often find themselves wanting to dig in and do more, but it can quickly become a lot. Nobody can take on everything at once, but if everybody does jump in where they can, I believe that we can build a stronger coalition of voices and support our school communities. One of the reasons I'm bringing this up now is, look, the PEP meetings are hard to get to, right? It's evenings, they're long, they happen in all 5 boroughs of the city, so they're often not convenient to travel to. But it's really important for local communities to show up in the central spaces when it's possible. The November PEP meeting is going to be taking place in Brooklyn. And so this is a good opportunity if you happen to be free on, I think it's November 19th. I'll put a link in the chat. It's a good opportunity to go. The PEP meetings are not fully hybrid. So here, when you come on the Zoom, we can see people's names. We can see, that you're here, that you're engaged and interested. For the PEP meetings, it's just a live stream, so there's no sense that the community is listening for the PEP members and other folks who are assembled there. Your participation is not visible to anybody else. So all that to say, there are so many ways to get involved, whether it's through the official school-based systems or things that are happening in your community. I just want to say that all of it matters, and that whatever you feel that your lane is, stick to it. That's, everybody's got something that they can contribute, and yeah, and don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good. Nobody can make it to everything, but everybody's voice matters. So today's meeting, as I said, we're going to talk about school walkthroughs. Coming up in early December, we're going to be having a chancellor's town hall. So we'll be talking as a council about what to expect and starting to develop some questions for that. We will have, I think, a short conversation about bylaws and working groups. And then we are hoping to vote on a resolution in support of better school bus services. So with that, I will pass it over to Jonathan for SCA strategy.
Thank you. So as Katina mentioned, one of our large responsibilities is giving recommendations to the school construction authority on what we believe to be the 5 most pressing school building, school construction needs. And the way that we figure that out is based on the relationships that we build with our liaison schools and the walkthroughs that we conduct before, ideally, which we'll go over before Thanksgiving, because we need to be able to populate our spreadsheet of all the schools across the district, and then really filter through what all the asks are from the schools to determine what those top five items are, so that we can vote before they are due to the SCA in mid-January. And if we miss that deadline, which happened to us last year because we couldn't get quorum for multiple meetings, the recommendations will not be accepted, and we'll have to wait 6 months for them to look at them. And so it's important that we are kind of on the ball with this work so that we can offer those recommendations. But as we will also, as Katina noted, you know, we looked historically at what we have recommended to the SCA. And again, the SCA is the School Construction Authority. And what we have recommended has really not been taken into consideration in terms of the work that is done. So what often happens is we let a school know that they were selected in terms of one of their projects for our top 5 recommendations. They will then follow up the next year with us to be like, so what's happening with that? And what we've learned over the years is that they will look at what we recommend, maybe, and move forward in a way that they see fit. So this is our mandate to do. It is important to do, but not necessarily just in terms of these recommendations. Where we've seen the real impact is this larger list that we've compiled from the walkthrough that we've collaborated with the school facility, the Department of School Facilities, and Carmine Francesi, who's going to be coming to our next meeting, I believe. November meeting, sorry, our November meeting. And he has been kind enough to look at our list the last couple of years and identify what funding source aligned with which project ask. And so, because there are certain requirements to meet SCA approval, so there's a money threshold, there's a type of project threshold. And so if it doesn't meet that, then it might fall to school facilities. And if it doesn't fall to school facilities, it might have to fall under Reso A. And so Reso A funding is funding that comes from the borough president and the city council members' funds. And so what can often work is schools can apply for Reso A funding through their electeds, and then oftentimes the borough president's office will collaborate with the council member's office who's representing the schools in that district, and they will fund certain projects. And we saw that happen last year in multiple schools across the district. And then,
Can you
yes,
just go back? Reso A is from whom?
so Reso A funding comes from the council members and from the borough president's office.
Just want to make sure I'm understanding correctly. So, when historically, right, we make the council has made the top 5 recommendations.
Yes.
Those often are not, taken up
Yes.
by the SCA.
Yes.
So, 2 questions on that. So how do they determine what projects they're doing? And is there any requirement that they take on a minimum number within each district?
So we've had them come and speak to us in the past, and honestly, it's been pretty unclear what that process is. Would you agree, having sat through those meetings? And they have
That's why you didn't want to be at the table.
Yeah. People don't know who I was pointing to. I just feel like that. I didn't say a name. But
They're
They're-
meant to be
they're-
prioritized. I mean, maybe
yeah.
we could walk through one of the BCAS reports to like,
yeah,
every school has a pretty long laundry list of repairs that the district knows needs to be done.
Right.
And it ranges from like, this light won't turn on to like, there's flooding in the basement
Right.
and there's a mold risk.
or there's
and
massive
our
electrical
equipment is
issues. And
shorting
then,
out,
yeah,
right. And so SCA then ranks things on a scale of 1 to 5, with
Yeah.
5 being the highest priority
Priority.
level. And so in theory, things that are ranked category 5 for priority should be taken up as soon as possible.
right.
What the other factors are that affect how quickly something is taken up are not clear.
Right, and along those lines, and this is why I maybe editorializing a little bit here in terms of our priorities, is the fact that school construction authority has told us that they are in communication with all of the schools, who shares with them what all the priorities are, which is what they're asking us to do. And then they are ranking it on the scale of priority and determining that. So we are an extra body and voice who's advocating for certain things, and maybe that will tip the scale in terms of maybe they're weighing, like, do we do this one first or this one first? And maybe if we come and say, hey, this is our priority, then they will prioritize one of those projects. But it is a very opaque process. Ken, do you have
Yeah, Jonathan, do we happen to know, what other bodies, what other kind of organizations hold weight in the process?
in terms of what
In terms of
SEA
what SBA will
prioritizes?
prioritize or will
I don't
take
know.
I'm not sure.
seriously?
I really don't know.
Okay.
Anthony, do you know anything? Yeah.
They're an agency directly under the mayor's office, which is a bit tricky as well, because they're not actually nested within
Within the
the
schools,
Department of Ed.
yeah.
Right.
It's just tricky.
It's tricky.
It's tricky, yeah. So that's where, like, this whole process is important, but not necessarily for the reasons that we're mandated to do it, which I'll go over. Like, I think they're very important in terms of us building stronger relationships with the schools, for us to have a better understanding of what is going on in the schools beyond just construction needs. And so through this is really the one time every year where we are definitely going through the schools. And so in doing that, each year, we're building stronger and stronger relationships with the administration, with the SLT, with the PAs, the PTAs. And then they are more likely to reach out to us in terms of what their needs are. And so I think that is what makes this work really, really important. And in doing this, we are still, which I'll go over this whole process in a second, we will still make these recommendations, but really, in terms of greatest impact, the recommendations we're making to SCA are probably lower on the list compared to us compiling this master spreadsheet to help advise administrations in the different schools in terms of where they should be looking for funding, because there's so much on the plate for administration to even have to think about and understand, like, oh, for this thing, I should be reaching out to the electeds. For this, I need to be talking to school facilities. For this, I need to be talking to SCA. And so, like, we can help be a support system for them in terms of navigating that. And we also, like I mentioned, this is really about relationship building for us. And so we can really be there to support and advocate for what their needs are beyond construction.
And for what it's worth, part of what Jonathan is tapping into also, I mean, this is a longstanding issue, the concerns that we're, I think, both expressing right now, the frustrations with the SCA. Last year, the council passed a resolution asking for more accountability from the SCA, in part because of things that were happening in a lot of different schools. But the thing that was really I think the catalyst was PS 15 and Red Hook, which had just millions of dollars of work done and absolutely zero progress in ways that became unsafe for some of the school community. That tends to happen in schools that are under-resourced, you know, that serve communities that really need the school to be there because it's also access to food, it's access to healthcare, whatever the case may be. And I see there's a question in the chat from a community member, the PTA co-president, about PS24, which I know has been in a complicated spot this year as well. Whether there's a specific point person within the school that's tasked with relaying repairs needed.
Yeah, so so typically, my understanding is that each school identifies one custodian as a person who ends up working with administration and liaising with the Division of School Department of School Facility Division of School Facilities and the School Construction Authority. And so I know in some of my walkthroughs in the past, the administration has had me meet that person. But that, you know, that person, and it makes sense that a custodian is the person who is that point person because they're the people who are on the ground doing the work, sort of knowing what the needs are of the school. And so my understanding is that that is an expectation that each school has that point person. I don't know if that actually happens or not, because I've only been in, you know, a certain percentage of the schools in the district. That's something we could ask the superintendent at the calendar meeting because I feel like he would know that. But that's the hope, is that there is that liaison at the school to advocate. Yeah. So does it make sense now to go through kind of the procedures? So I came up with these 9 steps for the walkthrough, and I hope that it is helpful. And this is my first time compiling it, so we may want to revisit this after we kind of go through to realize, hey, maybe we should add this or revise this. But just trying to help formalize the process a little bit to help people who are new to it, and to make it as thorough as possible. So the first step is, which I didn't even include here, but it was kind of an assumption that which we had talked about, reaching out to your schools, right? So we talked about that last month, about sending that introductory email, introducing yourself to your schools, and asking when is a good time to set up the building tour. So once you get a response from the school, then you want to do a couple of things. So one is
quick question. Has everybody had a chance to send an initial email to your schools? Has anyone not yet had a chance to do that? Amazing,
Yeah.
thank you.
And have anybody who still is waiting to hear back from some schools?
Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
I'm seeing one tomorrow.
Yeah, me too.
The 9 points that you're reading, are they saved in the file?
Not
I
yet.
just, I just saved it.
Oh, me too.
Oh, into the folder? Thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
I did
put
this
it in
via
the
email
date.
because that's what I had.
Okay.
I did it on my phone while I was
If
in
you
physical
put
therapy.
in materials today, we can put it.
I think you know, see it.
Oh, yeah, I can share my,
Okay.
Yeah, share your screen and that way the community can see.
Yeah,
There's
yeah,
a lot of people.
yeah, let me share my screen. Shanice, I did include you in that email though, right?
Yes.
Okay. Let me share my screen here. Okay, there we go. And should I make it a little bit bigger?
Can
I-
in the
I
email.
don't think it's a Google Doc. You want me to share?
Yeah, I don't
it?
think you can in the email.
Yeah, I mean, I can make it bigger. People see this, okay, is that a little bit better?
Mhm.
Okay. So the first step is, once you are trying to set up the tour, is to see if the following people can be there. So that would be the principal, any of the assistant principals, the parent coordinator, a PA or PTA president or co-president. It's important to have as many of those people there as possible because, again, they all bring different perspectives. And you want to start developing relationships with people across the school community. because your relationship with the administration is going to be different than your relationship with the PA, the PTA, the SLT, and the parent coordinator. So the more people that can be there, the better. And so that's something to try to follow up. I myself need to do this for my first building tour to see if they can be there. If they can't be there, because I've done some where a number of these people are there, it's great. If they're not, I just talk to, because usually the principal is there if it's just 1 or 2 people, talking to the principal to just make sure that you share your information with them and say, please share my information with the PA, PTA, with the SLT, with the parent coordinator, and have them reach out to me if there's anything that they need or anything that comes up. In terms of the timing of it, so in general, I've tried to set aside 45 minutes to an hour to do the tour. This does vary depending on the size of the school. It varies depending on whether there are multiple buildings. So I know that, one of my schools is across 2 buildings. I know a number of you are in similar types of schools. And so it is, because we are doing a walkthrough, to do a walkthrough in 1 building is not enough, because you really need to see what's going on in both buildings. So if you know that there are multiple buildings, or if you're unsure if there are multiple buildings, one, you can ask us, because I think collectively we kind of know most of the schools that are in 2 buildings. But it's something that you could just you can ask the principals as well to be like, hey, just making sure, since I'm new, or, is your schoolhouse 1 building or 2? If it is 2, try to add, an additional 15-20 minutes to be able to walk over to the other building and to also tour that building as well. Okay. Any questions so far? Okay. So preparation. So as you prepare for the meeting, you want to come in with as much knowledge as you can. So to do that, the best place to start is through the official school website on schools.nyc.gov. Okay. So if you just Google the school, you can just scroll until you find the schools.nyc.gov website, click on it. And once you click on that, you'll see a bunch of tabs. You'll want to look for the reports tab. And then from there, you will want to, and I pulled it up here, okay? So you'll see there's overview here. This is what you'll see initially, school quality and reports. You want to click on reports, and then from reports, you will see it'll look like this. It'll be all closed when you first go on it. So you can see the building accessibility profile. This is going to matter in terms of whether they're meeting ADA compliance. So here I'm looking at, I'm able to name schools here, right? Like I'm looking at the Harbor School here, which is where my first visit is going to be tomorrow. And there's no accessibility. So off the bat, I know that we probably need to be talking about ADA compliance. And that is, so everybody knows, when we prioritize, ADA compliance is a separate list. We learned that last year, where we do not include that in our top 5. That needs to go straight to them saying, you need to work on this as soon as possible to make your school compliant.
When you say straight to them.
Straight to, I don't know if it's with the SCA or if it's another division.
Okay.
That's why I'm saying them, because I
Sorry.
don't know exactly.
Yeah.
I was trying to be vague. So it is sent to somebody who makes that decision. I think it is a division within the SCA that focuses on accessibility, but I don't want to say 100% that's it, but I do know.
Not the school administrator.
Not the school administrator. No,
Yeah.
this is dealing with the people who are in charge of the construction. So I just don't know if it's SCA or school facilities or somebody else who is in charge of doing the construction work. But it is not the schools. It's not the DOE people. Yeah. Thank you. That's a good question. So the tab that you want to click on next is facilities. So you'll see there's the water testing and environmental reports. There's the principal annual space survey. So obviously the water testing and environmental reports, these would be if you are ranking probably closer to tier 5 priority, because there's imminent danger to children and staff and in the schools if there are any of these issues. So it's good to know going in whether any of these issues have already been flagged, because if they have been flagged, they should be on priority lists already. The principal annual space survey will help in terms of understanding just sort of the capacity within the school. I think we won't be looking at as much at this, but I do know when I was, for instance, doing my walkthrough at BHS in Borum Hill, they are co-located with a charter school that was taking up a lot of space that they should not have been taking up. And so it then led to trying to revisit their building utilization plan, the BUP, if you hear that. And there's one person in the city who's in charge of it. And so if he doesn't change his mind, nothing changes. But this will help in terms of better understanding space and what we can and should advocate for.
And they were able to reclaim some classrooms.
They were able this year to reclaim some of the classrooms, yeah, because it was for that story that, the Success Academy was at 50% of the enrollment of what they were when they designed that building utilization plan. And so there were multiple schools in the building that needed the space that couldn't use it, and there were just rooms sitting vacant that they were using for storage instead of as classrooms. So these are the types of things that the administration and others will let you know during the walkthrough, but you might get a preview of some of it.
Can you click into these?
This one? Yep.
Any of them,
Yep.
just so people see like what they look like, because there's a lot. in
There's a
these
lot,
reports.
yeah. And so, if you don't have time to read through all of these documents, that is fine. It's really just more of a preview of maybe some of the questions that you might want to ask, or like, what are you aware of when you go through the building tour? Because I think that, again, if you were to read through every single one of these PDFs, you would be spending a whole lot of time.
So you might look
doing
at the
it.
most recent ones there.
Yeah.
And, remind me what the principal utilization stuff looks like.
Yeah, so this, it's just downloaded, so I can pull that up. I don't know if it's actually gonna show it on my screen.
And I feel like
but-
BCAS is probably the most important.
Yes, so that's going to be. No, you don't see it because I just did my other, but essentially it just goes room by room and covers square footage and the function of the room. So that's what it does for the space.
And Jonathan, are you asking questions of the school in advance? Or?
No, I'm not. This is all just kind of a
When you're
part,
there,
when you're
that's-
there. So oftentimes, which we'll get to the visit itself in a second, but what will often happen, at least in my experience, is you'll sign in, you'll go to the main office, you'll sit down in the principal's office. You're not in trouble, like you sit down in the principal's office. And they just want to kind of tell you about their school. It's just a conversation for the first 15-20 minutes. They want to, let you know about like what the school is doing really well. What are some of the highlights? Like it's their elevator pitch kind of thing, right? And then from there, the conversation can start transitioning towards the needs, and that conversation will happen on the move as you start kind of walking through the school, which we'll get to it a little bit more. But yeah, so that's kind of the process of what happens. The BCAS, the Building Condition Assessment Survey, this you'll see, so here there was, so I have to move window here. So there's an architectural PDF here. So, we're going through all the architectural stuff that they're having dealt with here. It's many pages.
And they go roughly in priority order,
Right.
right? So like scroll back up to the top and let's just see like what is like one of the top priority things at
Yeah.
this particular school.
So here, we go to the top, so that first page is kind of a summary. And then here we're looking at, so.
Let's see, general.
Accessible, and then the different systems they've got, so they've got repair windows, window guards, exterior walls.
A reminder to speak
Slow down.
Oh, sorry, I will
Me
speak
too.
slower.
Yeah, sorry about that.
I'm usually better about that, I apologize.
It's from the interpreter.
No, I know, which is why I try to be better. So, yeah, they've got the years of the different inspections, what they've had replaced and when it's been replaced. So like you look at the roof was replaced in 2006, so it's almost been 20 years since the roof was replaced, which is a very long time. We look at the systems of the window, exterior guards and replacement. That was done nearly almost 30 years ago. So they're looking at some of the work done now to the facade, and priority conditions here. So they've got potential falling debris, protruding elements, tripping hazards. So, I mean, it's very detailed. There's a lot of information. You know, we look at just this one document, it's 60 pages. And that's just the architectural, and then there's also electrical, and then there's mechanical. So again, it's a lot, but if you can just pull them up, look at the headers, skim through to see if there's, you know, anything that kind of pops out. And if you don't have time, that's okay. Like, it will come up in your conversation with the principals.
Mhm.
They know what their needs are. And so what's most important is being able to document it, and be able to then add it to the list and advocate, you know, advocate for what their needs are. So during the visit, so that's the preparation. One other thing that you can do is you can look at the priority list from last year. And so you can kind of highlight that to be like, hey, can you give me an update on if anything has happened on these 3 items that you highlighted for us last year? Because we don't have that data currently. I know I was trying to find it. I feel like the SCA or DSF did share a document of progress of all of their jobs at some point last year. I just couldn't find it anywhere. So if we can dig that up, we will share that with you. But I think just simply saying, hey, this is what you highlighted for the CEC last year. Can you let me know if any work has been done or if anything is in the works on any of these projects? Yes.
On these visits, I'm assuming the principal is the most vocal in terms of
Usually.
communicating.
Usually.
Is there any interest in just kind of making an effort to listen to the parent leadership on these issues as well?
Yeah,
And how do
100%.
how do we kind of, I guess historically, their lists, what composition of the needs come from the administration versus the parent leadership?
Yeah. So, to be honest, in all the building tours I've done in the last 2 years, I think I've had parent leadership show up to 1. So, it's just a timing issue, and capacity. But what I have found in terms of, especially parents reaching out to me, I've gotten more emails from parents than I have in terms of being as a part of the building tour, but I have found they have mostly been in lockstep
Okay.
with the administration.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I mean, and what I've been seeing in the advocacy at PS 24 is an example of this, like the parents will usually go to the principal first, right? That's who I would go to if there was like a safety issue that I noticed at the playground or something like that.
Right.
And so usually the principal already has an ear to the ground on what's on the parents' minds. And then if you are able to go to either an SLT or a PTA, PA meeting for your school, that's another place to hear it, because then you'll definitely hear, you know, you'll hear all kinds of opinions, not just from leadership in that
Right.
case, but what's on other parents' minds as well.
Yeah, exactly. So the next step after your preparation is the visit itself. So once you,
Oh, sorry, can I say one other thing? When you're looking, when you're looking at last year's priority list, you may not find items for your school because not all walkthroughs were completed. And so we're trying to do better than that this year. So if there's nothing there, that's why. but
I would say only about half of the walkthroughs, if that were done, both of the last 2 years.
So once we gather the information.
Yeah.
We present it here and then you guys put it somewhere or we?
Right, so we will compile the list. So do you mind if I come back to that?
Okay.
Is that okay? Cause I'll get to that more at the end.
Okay.
Sorry, way too many things. So the next step, question? No. So the next step is what happens at the meeting. So like I said, typically, you will sign into the building like we do at any DOE building. So make sure you bring your ID with you. They will send you to the office. Typically the people who work at the office will ask you to sign in. They'll let the principal know that you are there, and then the principal will have you come in. If other members of the community are able to join the tour, they will also come, and you'll have that initial conversation. So that initial conversation, like I said, is often that elevator pitch from the school about like what makes us great, and then it will transition into, so now let's sort of walk through and then figure out what our needs are. So some things for you to maybe ask before you start walking, doing the walking tour, is to ask about what current SCA, Reso A, and other projects are underway or at least in the pipeline to be taken care of. And so for you to be able to document those, so that way, especially if they're like, hey, we were told this is happening, we've been in communication, but we've been waiting a long time. And so these are the types of things that we can start to flag to ask the superintendent's office about, to talk to, like when Carmine comes, to talk to school facilities, SCA. So that's a good first step to just be like, okay, what is already happening that I should know about? Now, I didn't write this on the list, but I think this is a personal preference. I would either bring a notebook with you where you can write down if you prefer that, or if you prefer to take notes in your phone, on your phone, I would do that. Computer does not make sense for this. I think if you have a small tablet, it could work if you're comfortable walking around, but definitely have something where you can be recording all of this information. Even if you want to copy and paste some of what's in this document here as just a template of like, hey, I need to make sure I ask this or talk about this, and then you can just take your notes underneath it. Any questions on that? Any other thoughts on that? Anything I missed? No? Okay. So once you start the tour, you want to ask about the needs that are unrelated to the building projects that are already happening. Different than that. So this is asking about the needs that are unrelated to building projects in general. And I added this, even though it's not technically a part of what our mandate is for SCA approval, because I think we should also know what's happening in the school. So like, is there currently a shortage of paraprofessionals? Are they really lacking, lab equipment for their science classrooms? These types of things are really helpful for us to know. One, because we can advocate with different electeds and others potentially to get the funds needed to support that. But also going to a point later is Ken and I had a meeting with the borough president's office last week, and they really stressed that they would love to fund a district-wide initiative. And so if we can find that there are similar needs across schools that go beyond just construction, so it could be, what was the example, Ken? Do you remember that they gave for one of the other districts? Hydroponics labs.
Hydroponics labs?
Yeah, I think it was hydroponics labs in District 17, maybe, or 13. Because, they were building one and other schools, they realized could have it. And they're like, oh, this is cool. We can now fund it across the whole district and say like the entire district, when you come to this district, every school is going to have this hydroponics lab. And so by asking about these other needs beyond school construction, I think we can maybe start to identify some of those themes that we can use to advocate to the borough president's office, because they're gonna be asking for their funding recommendations pretty soon after SCA is asking for theirs. Like, was it February? Right? Do you remember when they said, it was either later January or February, it was after SCA, but it wasn't a very long time after.
Yeah, it was definitely after.
It was, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's just good to know. And for number 5 here, you know, these are the types of things also where they might be issues that we now know that we need to raise to the superintendent. And a number of those things came up last year and the year before, where we realized, hey, you know, they'll be like, we told the superintendent's office about this. We know maybe they're working on it, but some extra pressure might help, right? And so by asking these questions, we know what to fight for. So as you're walking the building, really ask again to see their highlights and points of pride. You know, it's important for us to know those things, right? Like, what makes each school special? Because all of the schools have their own uniqueness that makes them who they are. And I think as the CEC liaison, it's important for us to know those things, right? Because these are not our own children's schools, so we don't know them as well. Which I think is a great model for why we do this, right? We really need to better understand the schools in the district. So if they don't cover a lot of these highlights in your sit down, continue to ask for what they are as you're walking through the building, and maybe you see some trophies like, oh, tell me about like your after school programs and other thing, you know, other extracurriculars that make your school great, and those kinds of things. And then you'll also want to be asking about the areas of need. So for the areas of need, it's important that you do a couple of things. So first is you want to write down and take pictures of the need, okay? I did take pictures because I was told that was a good idea in the last couple years in my tours. I don't know if we actually, you know, we didn't include them in the spreadsheet because there was no way to add them, but I do think that maybe that's something moving forward that we can start to do, where we send the spreadsheet with the priorities, but we also send an extra attachment with images that represent what the need is. So, you know, if for instance, there's a need for a bathroom renovation, this is my example here, you know, you'd want to take pictures of the current condition of the sinks that aren't working, or the fact that there's only one stall for 300 kids, right? Or urinals that don't work, or it's an elementary school and all of because it's a converted building, all of the toilets are, you know, really high and they're not low enough for 4 or 5 or 6-year-olds to use, right? So those are the things that if you can write it down and document it with pictures, and then ask the administration and the others, so what do you need? What do you envision, right? And so they will probably have a very clear idea of what they want to comply with what their needs are. So they might say, for the bathroom example, we need 5 stalls with low, with low toilets. We need sinks that have, the hot cold faucets that are lower. We need to be able to have more accessible, hand dryers, and maybe, we want the electric hand dryers versus, relying on the paper. We need new soap dispensers that are functional, those kinds of things. So the more detail that you can include, the better for that.
Real quick, if we save the photos into a drive, we can add it into the spread, not the photo itself, but like a thing.
Oh, yeah, the link to the drive, which is smart. Thank you
Be
for
careful
that.
if you're taking photos not to get kids' faces.
Yeah, no kids. Yeah. So these are, that hopefully shouldn't be an issue in
Right.
taking pictures of the building.
Right,
But that's always an important
there,
thing.
yeah. There's
Kids are
they get
everywhere.
away.
Yeah, kids are everywhere. Yeah, and I would say, if there is a specific, I'm gonna stick to the bathroom example, because let's say they say, hey, we need to renovate this bathroom, but there are kids in the bathroom. Wait for all the kids to leave, then go in. I know it seems self-explanatory, but like, it's important, one, for privacy. And also, if we're gonna try to document things, we don't wanna be taking pictures with kids around, especially in those spaces. Any other questions related to sort of what we need to document and how we document it? Okay, so after you do that, you will input all of the building needs and requests on the CEC SCA recommendations spreadsheet. I put the link here. And it will take you, should I go to it now? Okay. So the spreadsheet, you'll see all of the schools listed here. And I don't know if it was Shanice or Katina that wrote all of our names next to it, but thank you for that. So, you know, there are, so I'm just looking at 295 here for where Elton is. You know, we've got 5 different spots here for different needs. Please put all recommendations, big or small here, okay? Even though SCA only wants the big projects, it is important that we document all of them because we do plan to itemize this to let the administrators at each school know where they should be looking to get funding, okay? So even if it's, you know, something like, hey, we need 3 new air conditioners, right? Like that's not a huge expense, but that should be down here. And so if you end up with more than 5, you know, it looks like most schools have 4 or 5 rows here. Just, does everybody know how to add a row? So you can just right, you know, go click here, right click, and then insert row below or row above. And then just make sure that you add the borough, the school code, and then you can write the information in. And so you'll see at the top here, you've got the description of the request. And again, it reminds you 1 request per line, okay? So if you've got 7 requests, that should be 7 different lines. Question?
Let's say to that other question, if there are unrelated, like priorities unrelated to building projects. Like
Yes.
the examples you gave, not enough paras,
Yeah.
should we document those somewhere?
Yeah,
as
I'm
well?
wondering if we should create a separate spreadsheet for that.
I can make another tab on this one, so that we've got everything in one place and then.
Yeah, that makes sense.
The submission process, I think, we don't send them the spreadsheet, right? I think Shanice has to enter things.
There's a special
In a
form for the
portal?
SCA, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but the spreadsheet we
So then
do
you can-
share, we have shared the spreadsheet with the electeds,
Got
with
it.
the schools, with others, and what, you know, so we have these tabs at the bottom here of what are the DSF requests, what are the office of, so it's, this is to answer your question
Okay.
before, the Office of Accessibility requests. That's the department that deals with the ABA compliance, and then the ResOA requests. And so we just fill out this column D with a description. Then we will send this form, once we have hopefully completed it by Thanksgiving, we will send it to Carmine if he is amenable again, who will then fill out column E, where he's gonna let us know whether it is an SCA project, a DSF project, or a ResOA project. Okay,
I'm
question.
sorry, Jonathan. Carmine's role,
He is the Division of School Facilities person. I
Okay.
don't know what his title is there, but
is he in the superintendent's office or is he at central?
central.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
So maybe a separate document for those other.
Right, so but what Katina was saying is we could just create an extra tab at the bottom
we
here.
can take that out before we
Yeah.
send it.
And then we can take it off before we send it. Yeah, exactly. But you look here at the ResOA, we've got it, the schools, and then we've got the council members next to it. So we'll just need to update this for the year, which I can just do right now.
Thank you. And he, Carmine is the director of facilities for Brooklyn North. So
Okay.
it's not just for the district,
Right,
it probably includes a cluster. Yeah.
other districts
Mhm.
as well, yeah. Okay. So it is important that you document these as soon as you can. I know that people's time and schedules are very hectic, and so, you know, worst case scenario, you know, the day of the meeting that we are about to initially talk about it, just make sure that it is, you know, even if you conduct the tour tomorrow, the walkthrough tomorrow, and you know, things are really hectic in your life before the next meeting, then just make sure before the next meeting, anytime between tomorrow and the next meeting, you take the 10 minutes to sit down, pull up the document and add your information.
That said, it'll be easier when it's fresh.
It will be easier when it is fresh in your mind. Yeah. So the next point is just to share your contact information. This is your own comfort level. Obviously, you've already shared your email, your CEC email with the administration. Make sure that, especially if the PA or PTA president or representative is not there, as well as the parent coordinator, that you just encourage the principal or assistant principals to share your email with them. If you are comfortable, you can share your cell phone with them. I don't have the cell numbers of all of the principals, but some prefer to communicate that way. So again, you are not required to do that, but if that is your comfort, you are comfortable with it and they are comfortable with it, it is something that you can do. And then lastly, and Katina and I were talking about this. So, the hope and expectation is that you can try to attend SLT and PA or PTA meetings for all the schools that you liaise with.
Not
But-
all the SLT and all the PT.
Right, no, just a meeting, not every single one, that would be impossible.
Yeah.
No, to attend a meeting at each school, each year, it is still a lot. And in terms of, I know everybody on this council has different responsibilities, outside of being a volunteer CEC member. And some of the timing may overlap with other commitments. And so what Katina and I were discussing was that instead of saying, hey, let's pick a date for me to come, you can do that. But alternatively, you can say, hey, I am here to support you. Let me know when you would like for me to show up to a SLT meeting or a PA or PTA meeting, and schedule permitting, I will 100% be there. And so, just personally, I've attended, 2 SLT meetings and 1 PTA meeting, and of the schools I've liaised with, and it was schools that reached out that said, hey, we wanna hear from you, we wanna know what's going on.
And sometimes, you all probably know from your family schools too, like sometimes the parents know that there's something important that's gonna be discussed at a particular meeting and they want an outside voice and ear that's there, so.
Yep. So that was a lot of me talking. Thank you for
It's so
listening.
helpful though. Oy.
Thank you.
Any other questions, anything that you feel like I might have missed? Yeah, Jonathan?
So for schools, you mentioned like not all of the walkthroughs were conducted last year. So are schools, when we're emailing them saying like, hey, following up on a walk, do they know what we're talking about?
They
if
should.
haven't? Okay.
They should. And also Katina had communicated, sent an email to all of these schools. Administrators get so many emails, right? So the odds that maybe some of the emails aren't seen or aren't read, fairly high for the mass amount, which is why we send follow-ups, right? But they should not be surprised by the email or the ask, because even if a walkthrough was not conducted last year or even the year before, this isn't something that's new. And so, previous councils should have been doing this work as well. And so should have done walkthroughs at some point. And we, even for the schools that didn't have the walkthroughs, emails were sent by our previous president to the schools being like, hey, if there's anything else that we need to know about to add to our spreadsheet, and did this before we had to vote, like, here's the link to the spreadsheet, can you please add it? And so some principals then directly added some of their needs to the spreadsheet when council members were unable to go to the walkthrough. And I think we should probably do something.
Yeah,
similar.
and some of the
Okay.
principals may just send you a list of what's going on at their
Right.
school.
Yeah.
Everybody's a little bit different as far
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
how
Yeah,
they like.
yeah, there was one school last spring last fall I wasn't able to get to just because it didn't work, and they just emailed me a long list of everything.
Yeah.
And that can work, and it worked, I think, because I had a relationship already from the year before, and so the second go around, it wasn't. I mean, it would have been great if I could be there, but it wasn't as imminent because I had been there and had the relationship, so they can just be like, hey, here are the 4 things, please add that to the list, and then I was able to do that. So. Anthony, anything else that you can?
No,
No?
you did a pretty good job.
Okay.
Thorough.
I have one other question.
Yeah.
We've thrown out a couple of different dates. We said Thanksgiving, but I think we actually need to have this wrapped up by the November 18th meeting. Is that correct
So-
or?
So we don't need to submit
Okay,
to SEA until January.
but we're gonna discuss this.
So we need to, right, so the December meeting.
Got it, okay.
So we'll discuss it in the December meeting, and then as long as our January meeting is before we have to submit it. Shanice, do you know what that date is? Do you have it?
I don't know what the exact date is, but it is in January.
Okay, do we know if it's before or after our January meeting?
Our January meeting.
Or Anthony, do you know what that?
Or
date is?
Anthony?
I'm looking for it now.
Okay, cool.
Because that might deter, so if our January meeting, in the past, we would discuss in December and then vote in January.
Okay.
But if it is due before our January meeting, it might make sense to finish the walkthroughs before the November meeting.
Okay.
So that we can add it.
Mhm.
And given that Carmine is gonna be at the November 18th meeting, if you're able to have at least like a fair amount of it done before then we can have a really productive conversation.
Yeah.
That would also mean that it's done before the Chancellor's Town Hall, and so if there's anything really pressing that's coming up in some of those conversations, you know, that's another useful kind of date checkpoint to keep in mind.
Thank you, everybody.
Okay.
And sorry, interpreters for my speed.
Just a lot of information too, but really, really helpful.
There's also an SEA session that's happening. Actually, one is happening tonight, one happened 2 weeks ago, and
Right.
there's more coming up. So if you have other questions that you want to ask.
Yeah.
Yes, I think
There's,
I saw the one tonight with the
the
conflict.
Brooklyn, I think the one focused on Brooklyn is on the 28th. No.
yeah, so there's 2 things happening. There's one that's being offered by the SCA, that's a little later in Brooklyn, in
Yeah,
October, in Brooklyn, or for Brooklyn. But there's also one that's being offered by the ECC. That is, I think, gonna be more like this, like how to actually conduct the walkthroughs. You know, some of the questions about what that might look like, why you might be doing it. It would be, I think, very interesting to attend both.
I just looked at, so the SCA one that FACE is doing,
The 30th.
that was supposed to be, I think, more for Brooklyn, was on October 23rd, from 6 to 7. That's what I had,
23rd, and that's
the 23rd.
SCA representatives who are.
It's the SCA representatives.
Sorry, I'm talking about the deadline.
Yeah,
So for the top 5, the deadline was January 12th,
okay,
and then the
Oh.
remaining request, it was in April. The deadline was
January
April.
okay.
Yeah.
January, and when's our January meeting supposed to be?
13th.
The day after?
Yeah, that's the 13th.
Okay, awesome.
Shoot.
We could meet later, or no, we can't meet earlier. I mean, I guess we could meet,
You can do a special meeting if that's something you want to do. That's up to you as a council.
Let me think about it.
I mean, we could vote to move the January meeting to the week before, right? Technically.
Mhm. Mhm. I feel like it gets tricky the closer it is to the new year.
Right, but, I mean, kids go back to school on
Yeah.
second, third, something like that.
When is our
Second,
December meeting?
December is the 16th. Could we finalize it and vote on
Right,
one
16th.
meeting? Is that feasible?
We could.
We have no idea. We've never done it.
It's typically taken a few meetings, but I think it's taken a few meetings because people haven't done it.
Yeah.
But
What
we
if
would
we
need
try to
to,
do November and December? Because Carmine will
Yeah.
be there in November.
yeah, I mean, why don't we aim to have walkthroughs done before the November meeting? As many as you can. And then we can,
November, what date?
November 18th.
18th. And then if there are any lingering walkthroughs, get them done before the December meeting, and then we could just flag those.
Yeah.
Before we discuss and vote in December. Is that,
Let's
Does
aim
that
for
seem like
that,
a
and then
plan?
if we don't make it,
we'll do a special
we'll
session.
do a
if we have-
special session or something like that.
Which I have full confidence in this council in
Yeah.
showing up and meeting quorum, like I'm not concerned about meeting quorum, which is a beautiful thing.
And it's October 30th for Brooklyn, but now,
October.
Oh, it is, I had the
Yeah.
date wrong?
Yeah.
It's not the 23rd?
No.
I
Let me
just
write
put it in,
something.
okay,
I
thank
can-
you.
Yeah, I have it in my calendar.
I have the
I got it.
well, there's
2
multiple
hours
dates.
ago.
So
Okay.
now
This
it's not
might be
Brooklyn at
CEC.
all. It's, there are no boroughs specific.
Okay.
So you
It's
just go
just
to it.
multiple dates.
Correct.
Okay,
That's why it
okay,
wasn't
okay.
wrong.
So they're given the same
I have it on.
information and everything.
I'll go back into this Google Doc later and add some of those, dates and deadlines we just talked about.
Awesome, thank you.
Okay, this is your meeting.
All right, everybody feel okay for now about SCA stuff? And just let us know when you run into questions. There's like a huge volume of information, and I think part of what our job is to help distill some of that, so that some things can move forward.
And just anticipate for, if it's the December meeting that we're really diving into it, that's probably gonna be a longer meeting. So we'll just wanna make sure that we have a permit for that school for longer for that day. Cause it takes a while, because everybody's fighting for their schools and like, what do we do? Ideally, if we really have all the schools, you know, is it 40 schools? I should know this number by now. But, you know, let's say there's 5 requests for 40 schools, that's 200 things to try to go over. And hopefully at that point, Carmine has looked through it and narrowed it down for us in terms of what is SCA. But still, that could be 50 things that we need to decide on. And so it just is a lengthy conversation.
All right, so the next thing on the agenda is prep for the Chancellor's Town Hall, which is coming up on December 1st. If anybody wants to like stand up and stretch, by the way, I just feel like it's something to get through. Anthony, maybe you can talk to us a little bit about like what to expect, and then we can start brainstorming some questions.
Sure. So as of right now, the school has been confirmed, permits have been submitted, flyers have been submitted, translated and submitted to the council. Next steps, is to start developing questions that you may want to ask. Usually councils also send a survey out to the community to see what questions they have as well. Simultaneously, we should be doing a walkthrough of the school. This is to see where you want to put like not the dais, the sign-in tables, the interpretation, if there's food, the food table, things of that nature. Some schools usually, or some districts do performance if space allots for that. Then after that, we will have a Teams or Zoom meeting where we discuss like roles and responsibilities, the agenda, things of that nature. And then we also have like comment cards, so who will be collecting those comment cards day of and going through the questions to see if they're repetitive or things like that, and then asking the questions. And then also I have a script as well that I will be giving out that same day so that you can have a brief overview on what to say. You can edit it as you please. The town hall is an hour from 6:30 to 7:30. However, I will be in the school at 4:30 with our vendors who do the sound and the webinar portion of that meeting. And then just setting up as well. So the day is making sure everything is set up. And then that's pretty much it. You just show up like 30 minutes early, just in case. And then I will be working with Shanice to just set up the tables, tablecloths, things of that nature, anything that you have as a council that you want to show. That's pretty much it.
Food, in terms of food, does space cover that budget?
No, that's the council.
And a lot of people usually come.
Right.
Do we have to do like a performance thing?
You don't have to, that's at your discretion. The only thing I will say is we shouldn't put it from 6:30 to 7:30 because that's gonna eat up your
Yeah.
questions. If you're gonna do it before time, so for anywhere from 6 to 6:30. And that will be a separate flyer that you should send as a council to let them know that there will be a performance happening, to get there at 6.
We didn't do it 2 years ago, but it doesn't mean that we can't do it.
Performance?
The performance, yeah. We did not do a performance 2 years ago.
Okay.
I'm on a simplified kick, so like as someone you really want to like spotlight.
I think it's nice to show the superintendent, showcase something that's happening. So I think, I mean, not show the chancellor, but I think it's a question we should ask the superintendent if he's.
Will the
interested.
chancellor come early?
The chancellor won't be there probably, yeah.
Oh, she won't be there?
No, not until her 6:30 time. So.
What if we ask Maxine?
You can try, she may get there like 5 minutes early.
Yeah.
But yeah, usually people ask for more time at the end to ask more questions. And usually she's more lenient in doing that. But that's a case by case basis on her schedule.
Okay, so.
Well, let's think about questions first, and then if we want to think about something else, I don't say that. We can do that, but. Oh, I don't even know where to begin. Like, how do we need a process? How do we want to? Does anyone have ideas for how to think about the questions that we want to ask?
Thematically? Like what are just topics, and we can grab questions. from
Well,
topics.
anyone saw her, state of education? I think if we kind of bounce off that and, priorities that we, as the superintendency has, as well as major concern of parents, so like those are pretty. Right, I know busing is a concern, and we'll talk about that a little later.
Yeah.
And Elton's been quiet, so.
I was just gonna build off what you were saying, Kim, on busing, and I think you both identified categories for the working groups that maybe we could leave questions that way, like if it was equity, transportation, and some other like language access, other kind of things, maybe we could like leave questions that way.
Which is also nice because it maps onto the resolutions
That's
that the
right.
council has been working on already. So
Right.
it shows, we can show the work that you've been doing and ask what else is happening.
I'm of the opinion as advocates that when you ask a question and it doesn't get answered, you just keep asking it over and over and over again. Maybe you try asking it in different ways. But I find myself actually frustrated by very many things, but in particular charter schools, especially in light of the class size bill. And more particular, the occupation of our public schools by for-profit charter schools. And every time I ask this question, including to the chancellor, when I filled in for you, I do not get an answer. The only answer I get is Article 56, Article 56, Article 56. If we have no power, it's state law. That is not true. And I find it very disingenuous for any DOE administrator to continue to say that the Department of Education in New York City does not have influence in charter decisions, because they have a lot of influence The DOE is responsible for putting together hearings and public listening sessions on these things. The process is largely ours. Sure, there are state level granting institutions like, I think SUNY is one, for example. And there's a lot of moving parts in it, but I think that especially with District 15 school space being occupied increasingly by charter schools, that is going to start pushing up against our obligations to the class size bill. So, I mean, I believe in diplomacy, I don't believe in being mean, but I am frustrated by every time and this goes back Chancellor Banks. You know, I got to talk to him every month on the President's Council, same Stonewall. So, and look, I don't want to go down a rabbit hole, but there is a lot of money, a lot of contracts, billions of dollars, lots of large for-profit corporations, all involved in this menagerie of intersecting issues when it comes to charter schools. And I'm not here to bash charter schools, don't get me wrong. I'm here to say that we need good answers on, as parent advocates and as DOE administrators, on facilitating a process by which we feel we have a meaningful impact on protecting our public schools, especially in light of our obligations under upcoming state law.
No question on that.
Yeah.
So the question is,
Well, the question is, I think, can we have a meaningful participation process above and beyond the state mandated hearings in which CECs can be more involved? And what that process looks like when a state entity, when an approving entity, and I can't remember the legal terminology in Article 56, approves the creation of a charter school. And then separately, the expansion of a charter school into a public school space. Of course, some charter schools have their own spaces, but many of them do not. And we have had, just in the past 12 months, some pretty severe controversies in District 13 of expansion into public school space, where it's not that they are not welcome, it's that they're impinging on principal's ability to service her families, his or her families and students. So yes, it needs to be more concise. I'll give some thought to that.
okay,
Is
So
it
I-
a matter of asking, what is the chancellor going to do to kind of curb that creeping into public school space?
I mean, look, maybe there are times in which
What
that
can we do?
creep is appropriate. Maybe the school really doesn't need the space and maybe there's some benefit to the underlying school. I can't think of a lot of examples of where I believe that's true, but I'm open to any possibility. What I think, and you know, I've asked this question several times, so I'm sure I can get a concise answer. It's just that I don't ever get an answer other than we're constrained entirely by state law, and then there's no other information provided. And that is just not an adequate answer.
so it seems to me what you're asking is more of a voice amongst parents in regard to the positioning of DOE when charter schools are being proposed, right?
I think the CEC should be involved.
Okay, so right now, they're not involved.
I mean, informally, sure. I mean, because they're required to have listening sessions.
Okay, but you feel like that's like a rubber stamp.
Yes.
Okay, so the public school, the public charter school is supposed to be meeting the need for the community. So do they have to prove that there is a need in that community or there's a desire? You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to get around what's already happening and see if there's a way to think about how can it be done differently, so it could represent what they say they're representing. So the charter schools, the whole system came about because parents wanted another option. So is that truly what's happening? And how do we, prove that or disprove that?
Right, and I think part of the concern is that one of the things we saw last year is that even when they're not co-located with an existing public
Oh,
school,
yeah, so
the city
that's-
has to pay, and it seems like the system is being abused. And so while there is a legitimate argument to be made for charter schools, the way that it has unfurled in New York City has been to the detriment of public school funding. Because the charter schools receive both the per student funding and facilities funding
Right.
from the city. And so forget the percentages, but the percentage increase in funds that charter schools received last year versus the percentage of increase in number of students they had was really, really high. So I think we could get really into the weeds on trying to workshop specific questions. Maybe what we could do today is think about what those themes are, and folks can work on, if like one person could commit to drafting a question, and then bring it back to the group, and we can work on language together after having read and thought about it a little bit. Would that make sense? Anthony, how many questions do you think we can have?
10 to 12.
Oh, really?
That
So
sounds
many?
good. Yeah, we did fewer last
Yeah,
time.
it depends on how long, so CCSE, when I had them, they asked 13 questions.
Really?
But it depends on how, how much time you give everybody to answer questions.
I do think, as Anthony said, I think we should send a survey out through parent coordinators to each school, with just a simple Google form of, what questions would you like the chancellor to answer at the town hall, or what questions would you like to ask the chancellor at the town hall?
And also,
Should we give
question-
them the categories also? No. Or just leave it open?
I feel like leave it open,
I,
but I don't know.
I think that would be ideal, but I would also, I could see a scenario where we have the categories, what categories.
We got
Questions,
DJ over here.
Are you most interested in asking, the chancellor, what are the top priorities and kind of give them the
Yeah.
opportunity, and then, we can make sure that we're asking, a significant number of our questions on that topic.
Maybe we could do both.
And then,
rank
have a
these
feel for
Like
open
rank the
questions,
topic,
right,
yeah,
yeah.
rank the topic and ask 3 questions on any topic if you want.
Right.
Ken, do you want to put a form together?
Oh.
Sure, why not?
Kim told me that I need to do a better job.
That's
of
good,
this.
delegation. Leadership is every day, it's just, you're just accumulating power.
Thank you.
Would it make sense to, in terms of themes? I'm thinking about just the upcoming election, and I wonder if it makes sense to ask. First of all, we don't know if the chancellor will still be chancellor, depending on new administration,
Oh,
and
geez, I didn't
so.
think about that.
Yes.
So, we will know,
Yeah.
we will likely know who the next mayor is at that point, and I wonder if it would make sense to have one question about transition to the new administration, and what preparations the DOE is making to ensure that that transition is done smoothly, to not disrupt, what is happening and the things that are working well with the schools and initiatives and services and all of that, because
My gut is that she's not.
we just don't know.
We don't
We just
know.
don't know, and even if she remains the chancellor, with every new administration, there are changes, right? And so I think I would like to know sort of what their preparations are.
Okay, so the categories I'm hearing so far are, so the 3 things that we've talked about on resolutions or will soon, which are transportation, gender equity, immigration support, language access, which has been a big theme for our council so far, charter schools, mayoral administration transition, and then I think just for me, like federal funding and like risks of federal administration impacting city feels big.
Yeah, I didn't,
You hear the charter?
yeah, I wouldn't want to lose sight of this other point I think we were alluded to, Elton, which is class size too, which
Yeah.
is related to the charter school question you raised, but like how what is the plan
Yeah.
to fulfill that mandate?
Okay.
I also don't have a very tight question yet, but I'd love to ask a question on technology and also just how they're choosing the vendors that they're then pushing out to the schools, because it feels a little more crony-ish than actually technological.
Yeah. And with technology, there's been a lot of things coming up that I'm hearing from parents too, like with testing becoming computer-based. But students are not all getting the same like preparation for how to do those tests. Yeah, and then just general like technology concerns, yeah, as far as student privacy and that kind of thing. But yeah, the vendor selection and the money is a big one.
Special education
Yeah.
funding. Talks of a cut.
Yeah.
And meeting service, like required service needs and yeah, so I'm just thinking like personally, things that we have been navigating
Yeah.
as my family, in terms of school struggling to meet the needs of one of my kids with an IEP because there just weren't the caseloads were too big and so needed to bring extra people in and so delays in services. And we've talked about this related to language access before in terms of, you know, my family is able to navigate this process decently, but it's still a huge struggle for the families that don't have the access, the language, the resources, the experience. It's even harder to get those mandated services for children.
Yeah. Okay, this is a really good start.
Can you say the list over again?
Yeah, sure, and I'll send it to everybody and include it in the meeting summary. So far, what we've talked about is transportation, gender equity, immigration, or supporting immigrant families really, language access, charter schools, a new mayoral administration, federal funding, class size, technology, and special education. I stopped counting. I was touching my. But I'll send these to you all and I think two things can happen at once. Ken can work on drafting a survey that can go out to the community and can reflect some of these categories that we're identifying, but maybe also surface more. And then, you know, maybe what folks could do, this is basically one topic per council member almost, you know, so if everyone could identify one question that you're willing to start drafting something on, and then we can look at them all together again.
Sorry, as you mentioned that, I wanted, this is related, unrelated to what you just said. Going back to Ken and my meeting with the borough president's office, is that hopefully by the town hall, we might have a couple more members.
Right, that would be great.
So they are not able to share specific details, but
They're working on it.
yes, our hope is that we will have 2 new members who we will meet to know who they are in the near future. But it seems like there's a decent possibility that they will be a part of our council by the town hall.
Good, that's good news. Great,
And we still need to work on finding our District 75 representative.
yes,
Right, like I said, unrelated, I think.
but it's all connected.
Yeah.
Great. I've made a note to follow up on this over email with everybody so that we can figure out for next time. But that feels like a good start. I feel already a little clearer than I did 10 minutes ago. Anything else folks want to talk about with that for right now? I feel okay.
I think the last one, there were people there with signs for crossing guards that came up last time.
That's true, that came up a lot.
Yeah.
What was the issue?
There's not enough,
There-
and some students have
There's
passed.
some recent, at the time, it was right after a couple students had been killed by cars. And so there was a big push and we passed a couple resolutions around it. And we're working with, so, the different offices, superintendent, NYPD, all the other offices to get more crossing guards, but there were people, that's the forum for it,
Yeah.
people. And so I think just having that space where people can voice their opinions and thoughts in a meaningful, respectful way, which is how it was done, and it got the chancellor's attention and responded to it.
Do we know what's happened since then?
No, that's a great question for the superintendent, because he's been keeping track of that.
I know, I remember this one being complicated in part because of the multiple agency question.
Right.
Which just makes it really easy for each agency to kick it.
Right, because it's not the DOE that hires them.
Right.
Yeah.
I think,
But yeah, having some answers to things we know have been asked in the past.
Right. As if nothing has happened, then we can expect the same.
Like, what is happening?
one topic which was raised in our last, calendar meeting is just the persistent, performance gaps. And I think that's one with the audience of the chancellor that we should definitely lift up. I know, Superintendent Alvarez spoke to, really troubling statistic of, the lagging, performance of the, Black students in District 15. And so I just think that we should lift that issue up, with the chancellor's audience and kind of spotlight that issue and ask for some support with, with that.
Great, thank you. Yeah, I mean, we have a public comment period later in the meeting, but maybe this is, we have a lot of folks on the meeting today,
Yeah.
and we're asking for community input, anyway. I know there's one person who, wanted to know what had happened last year. The CEC passed a resolution asking for more equitable distribution of Omni cards to all students, so that, for instance, high school students who live close to their high school and therefore are currently not eligible for transportation, they might still need to take the train to get to extracurriculars, to sports or whatever. This person was asking for an update on that. We did get a response, from the DOE, pointing us to the information that already exists, about how students can at least get a 2-trip Omni card. And so this person is asking that we at least make that information more accessible, which we can do. But yeah, should we take public comment?
Sure.
Yeah. So Kim, I'll pass it to you then.
Okay, great. Is there anyone on the Zoom, virtually that has a comment? I'll do the translation lines after. You could raise your hand or let us know in the chat.
In particular on this topic, if anyone has things that you would like us to be asking at the Chancellor Town Hall that haven't been surfaced already, we would love to hear those.
No? Okay, so we'll go on to our translation lines. Bengali.
The question was whether it's public comment on the town hall only, or,
Yeah, this is on the Town Hall.
yeah, we'll do another public comment after other agenda items.
No question on Bangla line.
Thank you.
On the Spanish line, any questions?
There is no question so far.
Okay, on the, let's see. Mandarin line?
No question in the Mandarin line.
That's it, right?
Great. Okay, thank you. That feels like a good start.
And so, and no other questions?
You want to ask in person?
No.
All of you on Zoom, we have food here for you. Come in person next time. Okay, so we're at 8:05. We have a couple items left on the agenda. The first, this is not a decision-making moment in this meeting, but I bracketed off some time to talk about the bylaws and working groups, which we've been talking about over the last couple of weeks. And then we can discuss and hopefully vote on the resolution in support of better. Elton or Kim, I know you two have been doing a lot of work on the bylaws and working groups. How's it going on the revisions? Are there any things you want to surface?
I think they look great. I think you've done some fantastic work on it, as has Kim. If I can, I'd love to go over just the background of some of the issues on it for clarity, because I think it's very important that council and the public are comfortable with their understanding of our goals here. So there's two real things that were extremely important to us when researching and drafting these bylaws. One is, how do we engage with the public and allow the public to have more access and more input into the CEC process. And second, how do we make it, well, part of that first part, and then how do we make that flexible enough that it's that working parents, that subject matter experts can actually be participants, show up and make it to the meetings, make sure that we are being as accessible as possible to the widest range of community leaders and families as we possibly can. And in that light, as we all know, CEC meetings are tough. They're always at night, and there are some parents that just can never attend something at night. CEC members have to be here physically for the most part. That is very difficult for some families. So how do you engage with the public and allow them to be more a part of the ideas that drive district community leadership? Well, one thing that is very important when thinking through that is how important it is to be open and transparent and compliant with state law, because we are a state mandated organization under state education law, and therefore we're subject to the open meeting laws. So you do not want to ever violate either the spirit or the letter of that law, because it is a very important law that makes public trust in our institutions far more possible. So I want to go over what a working group is and what a working group isn't. A working group is not a meeting of the CEC. A working group has no power or authority to make decisions for the CEC or deliberate on official agenda items of the CEC. The working groups are designed to allow the public to participate along with some CEC members, if they choose to serve on the working groups, to generate recommendations and ideas that will be reported back to the CEC. And I think it's important to make the point in two ways. One, we are not trying to limit the public's power or voice in any way. We just have to be compliant with open meeting laws so that any decision-making deliberations are properly noticed, are transparent, and only happen at meetings as specified in our bylaws. Super important for public trust. So that does limit, we can't say that the working groups, can draft resolutions or things like that, because they just can't do that. They can give us ideas for resolutions that we might want to take up, we might want to draft, we might want to debate at a properly noticed meeting. But again, these will just be recommendations. Now, constructing it that way allows us to engage with parents and other venues aside from an official DOE property. It allows us to engage with parents and community members on Zoom. It allows us to engage in different times, in different places that make it more conducive for the public actually being engaged. So I don't want to continue belaboring the point, but I just think it's very important because there's some subtlety here in that I think we are all very, very passionate about being transparent and taking the open meeting law seriously. We are also very passionate about engaging with our constituencies and with our community and empowering those voices. So
I was wondering if you could also just talk to who can be a part of the working groups, how that will function, to just help the public be more aware of what that process looks like and involvement and how their voice can be heard.
right.
So I would like to use the document that is part of the extension of what's going to happen, that's not part of the bylaws, as like just the landing point for us to have everything in. I started writing down everything you said. Cause I like the idea of what it's not and what it is, like dividing it up into like simplified terms. But there's also like these bullet points that are here, so as I go through them, if you don't mind, Elton.
Of course.
Okay, as I go through them, we could either make sure we keep them or we just slash them, cause I was editing, but I also wanted it to be a collaborative
Mhm.
process, right? So working groups are established by the council. May continue through the year. B, and then if you want, we could share this, I don't know. See list below, which I was gonna take out, which involves the topics. So we decided that the topics were gonna be flexible, so we're not, you know,
Yeah.
identifying them specifically in this, okay? So the working group reports can be shared during business meetings. You said that was staying. One member of the council is on the working group. Right? Number 2 is each working group must have a minimum of 3 members, including the chair, and a maximum of 6.
I hesitate a little on the maximum of 6.
Okay.
I know we don't want it to get so big that it's hard for voices to be heard, but it's tough to know who's gonna want to be a part of it. And there may be folks who want to come and listen without necessarily taking as active of a role. And that seems okay to me.
Okay.
I don't know.
Can we just keep it as minimum of 3?
Yeah.
There should be at least 3 people, one of which is a CEC member.
Yeah. I can. That seems reasonable.
Is
Okay.
there a distinction, based on what you said, between a member of a working group versus an attendee, and then someone in the public who just attends?
You know, we should probably think about that. Like, is there an expectation of commitment
Right.
to be a member of a working group?
Like, I think a member to me signifies you're attending, like you're
Regularly.
you're assigned, you're designated attending regularly. But separately, you may have a member of the public who wants to attend,
Okay, right.
you know, a working group meeting for whatever reason.
But so one other thing we haven't discussed is, you know, it is not subject to open meeting laws, right? So we don't need to be announcing every meeting to everybody. But along this conversation of having people joining just to listen in versus more active members who take on responsibilities, there should be some discussion of how are we letting people across the district know which working groups have been formed, when are they meeting, and if somebody wants to opt in to participate as a part of a working group, what does that look like, and how does that happen?
I think it's as simple as putting it on at the bottom of our agenda each month. Working groups will be meeting and give them a Zoom link or whatever, but dates. Sometimes we won't have any working groups, and sometimes we won't have working groups meeting, right? So it's not something that, I think it's flexible, so it should just be like added on the agenda when we send it out.
Another idea is like if we had on the site where you can subscribe to that working group's email list, that we can send out to whoever subscribes.
Okay,
I'm
so
jotting
should
some
I
open
add
questions. I'm jotting some open questions at the bottom that we can
solidify later?
solidify, yeah.
Okay. Okay, so for number 2, each working group must have a minimum of 3 members, including the chair Now, we had this discussion, I can't remember if it was a chair who is part of the council, right?
I don't think the chair necessarily needed to be part of the council. There
Including
needs
a
to be a
chair,
chair
okay.
and there needs to be a member of the council.
Okay,
We refer to the CEC member currently and the final order of business is the liaison.
the liaison, okay, including the chair. So we'll put including the liaison.
Yeah.
See, okay, so you're editing that.
Yeah, is that okay?
Okay, that's fine.
All right.
Okay, 3, working groups may consist of non-elected caregivers of the District 15 students and experts in the field. The group is addressing experts in that particular field.
Did we say that they needed to reside within District 15, the experts, or could they be from anywhere across the city, the country, the world?
Yeah. I think they have to be,
I think they should have to be local.
Okay,
yeah,
anybody?
yeah. Anybody else, comments? Okay, 4, each working group shall operate under the CEC bylaws. 5, all working group recommendations shall be subject to approval by the council. All right,
That's dangerous statement. I would say, because you can't just approve a recommendation that comes out of a working group.
oh, so it's
You would have to make it, you would take that recommendation under advisement.
under
And then
advisement.
you would make it an agenda item for the CEC, which would then be properly noticed and open to the public for that deliberation.
Yeah, so it's about bringing it, which we had somewhere else. I guess we'll just like clean this up in terms of order, because we did have it where they present their reports in one.
Can I ask a legal question on this? So we allow community members to submit resolutions to the CEC, right? And so, and then, you know, sometimes we will then co-sponsor a resolution, but sometimes they come from the community and they present the resolutions and then we vote to support that resolution and send it on. So in that vein, while the working groups are, you know, are entities in and of themselves who are only offering recommendations on their specific topic, are they legally able to decide, we want to draft a resolution together that we want to submit on behalf of the working group to the CEC? And the CEC can decide whether they want to put that on the agenda and deliberate and vote or amend or revise it.
It's a good question, because anybody can.
Because anybody can send us a
I
resolution.
think anyone could.
Anthony, you think that's okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because you don't have to take it, you don't have to take the resolution, they're just submitting something. You can bring it up, you can amend it, but they're not making a decision for the council. That's what it's about, it's not making a decision for the council. Whatever they're saying, whatever they're stating, it has to go through the council before.
So the council, the steps would be the council would need to vote on whether they want to look at it and consider it.
Mhm.
And if the vote is yes, then we move forward. If the vote is no,
Then it's
then it's done. Right.
How does this language sound? All working group recommendations shall be brought to the council. The council shall decide what action to take. Oh,
Answer that.
Can I read part of I sort of explained in my own words, but the words matter, like a little bit of what I just said here. Kim was a little bit of annoying lawyer semantics, but the annoying lawyer semantics are important in this case.
Okay.
So, because what you described is perfectly fine, you just can't say that you are going to adopt something that the working.
Right.
You're adopting something that the CEC does, but you are choosing to take the work of the public community at large to base that deliberation process on.
Right.
So, under the proposed revisions, no council decisions. Working groups do not adopt positions on behalf of the council, do not bind the council, and shall not be assigned any task that is a necessary step in the council's decision-making. Council members participating in a working group do so without deliberating toward a council decision outside a noticed council meeting. That's very important, and some of the language in there, including the necessary step, comes directly from New York case law on exactly these types of open meeting law questions. So I do feel very confident about, you know, that balance that we're striking to maximize public engagement, but still maintain the transparency and trust that's so important to us.
So that's all in the bylaws.
Yeah, so that's all in the bylaws. So I know that this will be an ongoing item of discussion, and I want to make sure that we have time to get to the resolution as well. I do know that we have comments from the public on this. I'd like to get through the resolution and then we'll open to one final public comment. Does that sound okay?
Yeah. Okay, so
Great.
we're at 5.
Um,
Did you read it? 5?
oh,
You were
sorry.
saying, did you want to table?
I was saying I want a table.
Oh, you want a table?
I wasn't clear.
Okay.
I don't know. What,
I mean,
shall we keep going? Yeah.
yeah, I think we can keep going. Okay, 5, all working group recommendations shall be brought to the council. The council shall decide what action to take, if any. That's just the layman terms of what you said, right? Working group chairs are responsible for, and this is just common, to report to the council during business meetings.
Okay.
However, we need to change that to liaisons.
We said business above.
Oh, we did.
Yeah, I
So,
think business makes sense because I think it's more
yeah,
business
business
related.
meetings and it. They also, the liaisons manage meetings, including scheduling, notifying. I don't know, you want the liaisons to do all of that. Notifying working group members of meetings, maintaining accurate records, establish agendas, invite guests, monitor attendance. Is that something you want the liaison to do or someone in the group that can volunteer to do that?
I personally would love to see working groups have sort of some internal flexibility
Mhm.
in how they do things.
Okay, so I can change it to say that members of the working group will maintain records, so that we have that, okay.
Yeah.
So that's like another 7, I guess, but once again, so it doesn't belong under the liaison's responsibility.
Yeah, I think maybe the liaison's responsibility is to determine how meetings will be managed, but leave, you know, things like what the frequency is gonna be,
Open,
how to
yeah.
manage communications, that kind of thing, but leave the details open.
Okay, so let's take this out. I'm just gonna put manage meetings,
Okay.
including scheduling. Okay. Working groups may, and that should be 7. Conduct research. Give recommendations and create presentations, which it means create presentations to the CEC. And create and present presentations to the CEC.
Mhm.
And then the 8 is, meeting times and frequency of meetings should be determined by the working groups. Okay.
Yeah, I think that feels good for the time being, and I think, because these are guidelines and not bylaws, these are things, that can evolve over time as we see how the working groups actually function, as we start solidifying what working groups folks are prepared to convene and as we start actually moving forward. So So I think this gives us a good starting point.
I'm just reading here, it says draft.
Right.
Okay.
Great.
Do we?
Yeah.
Do we have any questions or comments on Zoom? We'll open it up to those who are watching virtually.
So we do have a question that's in the chat already, who's concerned that this is a violation of open meetings law. Elton, do you want to take that one? Or this is something you've been pretty careful about?
That was the North Star
Yeah.
in drafting these. This was, as I said, a very careful process that involved researching not just state law, but case precedent around OML. So I feel very confident that this is not crossing any kind of lines with open meeting laws. And I think this is really an innovative process to allow more public involvement. And
Can I ask a question? Why would if you're looking for public input, why is the public excluded from the working group?
But they're not excluded. The goal is to incorporate members of the public into the working group.
So it's like, say you have 3 council members, then you come up with a subcommittee you want, 3 council members are on it, they choose at least one more community member or a subject expert, and no one else can go?
No, anybody can go. Anybody can go.
And there's only one one council member, right?
The goal is to bring in voices of folks who might not be able to come to council meetings and who want to have a.
Then, all right, I had a follow-up. You didn't have a chance to email me back because I just did it. So anybody can go.
Yeah, that's the point of doing this.
Okay, and then the working group itself is made up of 6 people, and there's no public comment. It doesn't have the same CEC type vibe. You can just listen.
Somebody could just listen, and we decided, the number, there's no maximum. And people can come and just listen, people can participate, people can take on active roles. The working groups are gonna be able to decide sort of what they wanna do, what they wanna focus on, what kind of actions and recommendations they might wanna look into. And I think that's gonna be up to the group to figure out together. And we're not the first CEC to do this. There are other CECs that have transitioned to this model, and Anthony can probably talk more to that from FACE's side, but it's a way to be more inclusive.
Right, so I guess I'm totally confused because this seems fine to me now, but why all the conversation on the open meetings law? This seems like a subcommittee that's an open meeting that's going to be told to everybody when it is, and if you want to come, you come. So it seems a bit easier, because I was taken aback because it seemed like it was going to operate on its own. That's why all the talk on the open meetings, it's an open meeting, right? You're going to tell the public when it is, and then if they want to go.
I don't think that's an accurate characterization of this.
Because it's not going to be an official council meeting, it's not going to be supported in the same way that council meetings are. And when we have an official meeting now, the meeting notice goes out to the public on our entire mailing list 72 hours ahead of time. Like those are the criteria that we have to meet. We need to determine a way that we are making sure that the public is informed of what the working groups are and how they can get involved. But it's likely that those groups will operate with more flexibility than what the formal monthly council meetings do. Yeah, Angelica.
Yeah, that's okay. Just to add to that, I think an important distinction is these subcommittees, they're not executing any directives on behalf of the council, right? So oftentimes subcommittees are a group that a larger body creates to execute a specific task on behalf of the council. That's not what this is, right? This is actually creating a public forum where members of the community can join to share their ideas and make recommendations to the council. So I think that's an important distinction, right? They're not executing any directive on behalf of the council.
But included in open meetings laws is that you get a chance to see the debate of all this, and you get to see the talk, like all the talking of it. It's not just executing something, it's that the public can see the debate of it, especially with council members, CEC members being on those working groups. But just, so that's one point, but just to backtrack, if it's, so then anyone can go, but you might not get, you want to operate outside of the 72 hours. You might, a group might say on a Tuesday, we want to meet on Wednesday. You will send that out, but it won't have the same timeline so that people know when to go.
Yeah, we don't know yet what the details are gonna look
Well,
like, but.
I would suggest, Tim, what do you think? I mean, at this point, we're in the stage of trying to make a decision. The suggestion was to put it, create an email list, because this is topical, right? So these working committees are on specific topics, and what it will do is prevent me from sitting through a whole meeting just to get to the busing conversation, you know, because that's what I want to talk about. I want to talk about busing, where somebody else is sitting through because they want to talk about the immigration situation and that, but it allows parents to come to another setting where it's a smaller setting and they can actually hash out, as you say, these conversations around the topic that they're interested in.
Yeah.
So a vision or an idea may be to just, as we're putting out these agendas or on our CEC website, say, these are the working committees, this is the person you email if you're interested in being on this working committee, or a way for us to get email addresses. And now, if the working committee on busing is gonna meet next Friday, everybody is just gonna get emails and say, okay, there's a working committee meeting, you're welcome to come, and there's conversations. And it allows for more time for conversations on that in-depth topics that people are really focused and concerned about.
So I'll be right
So
there.
I just wanna, just a minute, because I just wanna make note that we're well past the 2-minute public comment period. I know that this is really important, and I know that public voice is what we're trying to get to, but I do just wanna clarify that the structure of what we're setting up in these working groups, the goal is to increase the possibility for public participation. The focal point of open meetings law is to make sure that in spaces, and I'm looking at the law right now, in spaces where there is a necessary function in the decision-making process, that those meetings are always open to the public, that the public is notified a certain amount of time ahead in advance, and that there's a certain structure around those meetings.
So do they don't provide a necessary function, the working groups? So then why have them if they don't provide a necessary function?
I think I'm gonna end this conversation because it's not feeling very productive. I'm not sure what it is about the idea of having conversations with community members and council members outside of a very formal setting. I'm not sure why that feels so contentious, but it's something that we feel very committed to as a council.
I wonder why it will have the opposite effect. It'll be less inclusive if people do not have the right to get there. So I think you have to be very careful on making sure that everyone knows when they are, so they have the ability to go to it. I think that was the question that was asked by one of the members a few minutes ago.
Thank you. Yeah, we'll make sure that that's the case. All right, I'd like to move on to the resolution. Kim, you brought this forward to us. You want to give a summary?
The busing resolution? Well, the busing resolution is pretty much, asking DOE, which I have to pull it up, that was a return, I gotta make it. Asking DOE to consider, more time when they are to truly consider the contracts that are being presented to them. When it comes to, bus transportation companies, because they've just renewed the same contracts over and over, even though historically there's been many issues, regarding, busing. We know it's a complicated system. We know that there are many, moving parts. It speaks to helping people, who are employed by these companies also when they're negotiating these contracts. And having, more rights for bus drivers and other people in the field. So it just speaks to really making sure that DOE considers and evaluates what's happening with the bus companies on an individual basis before they just rubber stamp and renew contracts.
And something that I would add to this, so I listened in on a recent PEP meeting when they were talking about the bus contracts. And I mean, folks here probably know parents who rely on busing too, maybe you all do, I'm not sure, but yeah, and I bet you have stories. Hearing from these parents was infuriating. They have dealt with so much just trying to get their kid to school, trying to keep their job while the bus comes anywhere and, you know, a 2-hour window and maybe drops their kid off at the wrong school. Maybe there's no language access for the kid. Maybe the parent tries to call to see what's happening and there's no language access on the line. It's really bad. And
They answer.
yeah, if they answer,
If they
right.
answer, they don't answer.
And so the intersecting injustices that happen for the families that need busing is really intense. And these bus companies, I mean, one of the CEOs or something was on the PEP call trying to defend his position, and it was very frustrating to see that the needs of the kids are really not being considered. And so this is just a goal of putting forward resolutions like this at the CEC level is with the hope of mandating that the PEP not just keep moving these contracts forward when the bus companies are not doing a good job.
So in light of the fact that I'm the parliamentarian, I forgot. I will just go around and ask if anyone has a comment before I make my comment. Okay,
We need to open it up to the
open it
public.
up.
Sure, yeah, for public comment.
Okay, we'll open up for public comment. On
the resolution.
On the resolution to support better busing for schools in New York City. Is there anyone on the translation lines that has a comment? Mandarin line first?
No questions in Mandarin line.
Okay, Bengala line, do you have a comment?
No comments in Bangla line yet.
And Spanish line, do you have a comment?
No comments yet.
No comment, okay. Do we have any other comments? Anyone on the Zoom interested in making a comment? You can raise your hand or you can put a comment in the chat. No. All right, so I will go around the room and ensure that I don't miss anyone. Jonathan Davis,
I think it's super important.
do you have a comment?
I think it's very important.
Okay. Okay, Angelica Cesario, I missed Cesario.
No, that's, you pronounced it correctly. I agree. I think this is really important and I support it.
Elton Dotson.
Same. I really appreciate you bringing this up. This has been a recurring issue forever. And the fact that that this has not become, better and didn't this get, I feel like this I've heard more negativity about the process after COVID, when the schools started coming back together. Maybe that's just my sort of snapshot of
Got
memory
worse, yeah.
of being involved, but again, thank you for bringing this.
Okay, Ken E.B.?
I think it's an important issue. I also think as a matter of, just best practices in terms of government contracting, it's good to look at how we can identify ways for the city agency that has the largest procurement budget to leverage that budget in an equitable manner.
Okay. Angelica Jadadondon?
I just wanna make sure we're commenting on if we're going to adopt this resolution and then vote on it.
Yes, if you have any edits.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. Yeah, let's do it.
Katina Rogers.
I think I already made the comment.
Okay. I'll go last. Zingzu, she's not in today, right?
I
Kara,
think she was on the chat.
Oh, was she?
She was on Zoom, yeah.
she was? Oh.
Oh, it should have been. So then she
Oh,
is
I didn't
present.
see. Oh, Chinsa, I didn't see that you're here. I hope you're doing better.
Do you have a comment?
So she's technically, she's present.
Yeah.
Okay, she's present, okay.
She's not
Okay, we'll
feeling
give
well,
her-
so, yeah.
Give her a minute, or she,
I think it's okay to
Okay.
move on, yeah.
Kara?
I appreciate you, pushing this forward. You know, I wish there was something we could do with slightly more teeth. But this is a step in the right direction.
Great, thank you. So, I'm just gonna tell a little bit of my experience this year. In the beginning of the school year, they told us that the bus pickup time was changing to 6:35 AM. So I live out of the district. I have to drive my son to the bus, which is usually a 15-minute ride. So I leave the house, backtrack. Last year, the bus pickup time was 7:26. All the parents agreed we'd be at the bus by 7:15, and we were, and there's about 10 parents at that bus pickup. So this year, the year started and they said we had to pick up at 6:35, something crazy like that. So I would have to leave the house far earlier. Okay, they gave us reasons why. They said they were within the guidelines of an hour and a half to get to school, whatever. It didn't really happen. I never got to that bus stop at 6:35, because I wasn't doing that to my child. That first week, a couple of people did meet, but then they pushed the time back to what it was last year. Last week, they said the time has changed. It is now 7:37. Come to the bus stop. That may seem like 10 minutes later, but 10 minutes later in New York City traffic. For me, I haven't met the bus. I think I met the bus once, because that 10 minutes has had me lock up. My 15-minute ride to the bus pickup is now 25 minutes. I missed it this morning. I had to drive into school. And I have the privilege. I have the privilege and the opportunity to do that. I can be late for where I was going. I had the car. I can do that. There are many parents that cannot do that. I missed the bus. 7:37 means that each day they are late to school. Not because it's not a 15-minute ride, but it's not a 15-minute ride at that time. It's a 25, 30-minute ride. And there's a bridge that opens up at the Gowanus.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so the bridge opens up. It's not the same every day, but I know from times when I've driven him to school that it does open up and you have to sit there. So we're mapping, mind you, these kids are still waiting for the bridge to come down at the time where they should be sitting in front of a teacher. So that's what's happening right now to my particular situation. I don't know what else is happening all around the city, but if my particular situation, this point in the year, in October 14th, where I'm told early, late, he's late. It's so unsettling, not only for parents, but for the children. On top of, there's not enough seats on his bus. The kids are standing as they're going to school. So you can just, needless to say, I support this resolution.
I move to vote.
Anyone?
Oh, I seconded.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, so Kara, I hand it over to you.
Councilmember Angelica Cesario,
I vote yes.
Councilmember Jonathan Davis.
Yes.
Councilmember Elton Dodson,
Yes.
Councilmember Ken Eby,
Yes.
Councilmember Angelica Jadanandan,
Yes.
Councilmember Katina Rogers.
Yes.
Councilmember Kim Wamas,
Yes.
Councilmember Shingsa Su,
Shinza, I don't know if you're able to vote if you're on the Mandarin line. But if you hear this and would like to vote on the resolution, just indicate through the interpretation. line.
Yes.
Yay.
Perfect.
Thank you. Thank you.
Councilmember Karen Swirling, yes.
Great, passes unanimously. Thank you so much, Ken, for doing that forward.
No,
Thank you, Ken. That's 3 really valuable resolutions that we've been able to move forward, and I agree, I wish we could do something with more teeth. Good to do what we can do. And keep moving, keep pushing. All right, last item, financial update, but Angelica, you said Shanice just got the P card like 2 days ago, so there
That's
hasn't been any movement. We're moving through reimbursements as people put in their requests. If there's, let's see, Chingza, I think you were saying something. If for the Mandarin interpreters, if there's something that you want to voice in the room, let me know. And otherwise, one last chance for public comments and then we'll wrap.
Yes. Is there anyone on the Zoom who would like to make a public comment? Regarding anything? Please let us know. You can raise your hand or you could put a comment in the chat.
I would motion to adjourn.
Yes. I second.
Everybody in favor?
Aye.
All right, this meeting is adjourned at 8:47 p.m. Thanks so much, everybody. And thanks to everybody who stuck with us on the Zoom. We really appreciate it. Next meeting, is October 28th. It's a calendar meeting at PS 516 in their new building, which is at 4308 4th Avenue in Sunset. So we get to see folks there. Everybody. Not cut out.
Right. Excellent.